The following program is a production of Hō'ike Kauaʻi Community Media. The Hō'ike Weekly has been made possible by the Rice Street Business Association and Violi Properties. Aloha Kauaʻi. Boy, do we have a full show for you today. In addition to some in-studio guests, we also have info on the upcoming Waimea Town Celebration, a new YWCA program specifically for Native Hawaiian residents, and an interview with Hawaii's 2025 School Counselor of the Year. And as if that weren't enough, we even threw in a complete list of this week's events that are up next. Regardless whether you're watching us on YouTube, Channel 54, or if you're listening to this on the Hō'ike Podcast Studio, make sure you're comfy. I'm Tricia Allen, and this is the Hō'ike Weekly. Know your favorite part about the Hō'ike Weekly is finding out what upcoming events there are to look forward to. Don't forget that you can get full details on everything we talk about in today's show by scanning the QR code on your screen or clicking the tiny URL link in our show notes if you're listening on the Hō'ike Podcast Studio. Let's do it. Every year, the west side of Kauai gathers in Waimea for 8 days of fun, food, music, and more at the Waimea Town Celebration. This year, the event begins on Saturday, February 15th, and it runs through Saturday, February 22nd. During that time, attendees can expect each day to have its own lineup of fun contests, races, music, vendors, and food, all geared toward bringing people of all ages together. We caught Thomas Nizo, the events director, out in Waimea and had a quick little chat with him, which we filmed for you, of course. So check it out.
Those 2 nights.
I was excited about 3+ personally.
Yeah,
I saw that and I was like, oh. Aloha Kauaʻi. I'm Tricia Allen here with Thomas Nizo. He is the director of the Waimea Town Celebration, which is in its
48th year.
48th year. Now, this might be a silly question, but you haven't been directing it for that long, right?
No.
Okay.
Probably for the last 7
years.
7 years.
Tell us a little bit about the celebration. Now, for anybody on the west side, you've already probably experienced it, and if you haven't, you should. But tell those who maybe haven't had the experience what it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to mix a lot of different things within the 7-8 days that we have programmed. You know, Hawaiian culture, Hawaiian music, local music, reggae. Just trying to hit a lot of different demographics in the 1 week period. We have a film festival. Actually, this year it's one film that we're actually honoring Alithia Kohi. She was a Hawaiian practitioner, a kumu here at Waimea. And she was responsible for actually erecting the Kaumali'i statue at Pa'ulaula here at Waimea. So we're honoring her. And she had Julie Morikawa did a biography film about her. So it's about a 30-minute film. So we're going to honor her at that film festival. We have cocktails and cuisine. You know, people who are on the upper echelon of fine dining and spirits.
Right.
Kind of deal. The theme is the Orient this year. So it's sake, shochu, and baijiu. So make sure you have a Uber or designated
driver. Good advice.
But yeah, so film festival, cocktails and cuisine. We have music in the park aimed at visitors that are passing through Waimea. Hawaiian music, hot dog contest, musubi contest, kimchi eating contest on all 3 of those days. We have the ambassador of Aloha. We're going to be honoring Pastor Darryl Kua and his wife Elizabeth this year. All of the work they've been doing since COVID and helping out our community. And then Tales and Treats, which is going to be featuring Lopaka Kapanui. And he's like, I don't know if you guys saw him before. He's like the Hawaiian ghost storyteller.
Okay.
And then obviously the big Ho'olauea, the 21st, 22nd, which includes, the rodeo, the run, the girls softball tournament, the basketball tournament, the canoe regatta. So all of those things, Scotty's music ukulele contest, super duper eating,
ice cream eating contest.
Yeah. And obviously the beer garden, that cola rum and Ray's Distributing is sponsoring this year again. So just a whole bunch of mashup stuff just to hit all the demographics on the west side. 8 days of just good fun.
Of stuff. Now, if anybody is bored that week, it's their own fault because there's plenty to do. With a hot dog eating contest and an ice cream eating contest, definitely want to wear elastic pants. You said you've been doing this for 7 years. How did you get into this?
Well, 7 years as the festival director, but 22, I think, overall.
Just participating?
First started off as the logistics person through PMRF. Then I guess I did a great job doing that. And somebody said, hey, can you do entertainment for us? Started doing entertainment. Then they're like, hey, you did such a good job. Why don't you do T-shirts? Started doing T-shirts. Like, hey, you did a good job. Why don't you do the beer garden? Started doing the beer garden. So after a while, getting all those things under your belt, like, why don't you just take it over?
That's what you get for being good at what you do.
So, nah. But yeah, so I enjoyed it. I mean, this past 20-some years been, a great payoff. Now that I'm, the festival director, I have this, tradition that I do on a Saturday night, the last band, when they hit their first note, I step up on the stage and be like, this is my payment, right? This is why I do it, is the smiles that we get, right? And like, that's kind of like my motto is, I measure my success by smiles per dollar. Like how much money I can spend and the return on smiles is how I measure my success. So that's kind of my thing when I get up on stage and just look out on the sea of people having fun, from little kids to teenagers to young adults to kupuna, all having fun at the same time at the same venue is what I live for, because all of this is not paid.
Really?
So it's all volunteer, no doubt.
Well, it's worth it to the community here because they really, really enjoy it. And it sounds like you're going to be the director for a while. Don't have any plans to go anywhere, right?
Don't have any plans to go anywhere.
That's good news. I have a feeling that Hō'ike is going to be able to capture some of these amazing moments at the Waimea Town Celebration, being that 2 of the staff live on the west side. So we'll be seeing you again, and you'll be seeing us again at the Waimea Town Celebration. Thomas, thank you so much for taking time to come and visit with us and tell us about it. It sounds like a blast.
Yeah, so it's going to be a good time.
Yay, looking forward to it. Thank you for your time. The KAUA'I Community Players continued their performance of Ripcord this week and next, with shows on Thursdays through Sunday until March 2nd. The 7 p.m. shows take place on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, while the 4 p.m. shows happen on Sunday. And all the shows are performed at the Puhi Theatrical Warehouse, located at 4411 Kikawaiana Street in Lihue. These shows are known to sell out, so keep that in mind when scanning our QR code for details. On Monday, February 17th, the Ho'ola Lahui Hawaii Mobile Health Clinic will be at the Lihue Christian Church from 10 a.m. till 12 noon with a food distribution by Hawaii Food Bank Kauaʻi, a box lunch talk story, and health resources for everyone. There is no appointment required for these services, and service is on a first-come, first-served basis. The Mokihana Club's 55th annual music scholarship competition is now open. This competition is open to all graduating high school seniors who are living on Kauai, going to major in music. They want to continue their musical studies and that they plan on pursuing a career in the music industry. Details about the scholarship as well as applications can be found at themokihanaclub.org/music. The Garden Island Arts Council continues its celebration of 42 years of bringing Kauai audiences the very best of Hawaiian music and culture with their signature event, E Kanikapila Kakou. This 8-week concert series that began February 5th features authentic Hawaiian music experiences and performances by Hawaiian artists every Monday until March 25th. Their performance for week 3 of the event is entitled Jammin' with the Masters and features a performance by Ledward Kapana, Jeff Peterson, Bobby Ingano, and David Kamakahi. Complete information on the event can be found at gardenislandarts.org. The Garden Island Arts Council's also hosting a Japanese incense making event at Japanese Grandma's Cafe in Hanapepe on Saturday, February 23rd. From 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., attendees will get to craft 8 to 10 all-natural incense cones, experience the Monko tradition of listening to incense, and take their creations home in a beautiful kiribako, or Japanese wooden box. Registration is required for this event, and you can get that information by scanning our QR code. A men's event for dads is being held at Alakoko Fish Pond on Saturday, February 22nd. It's from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. and will feature speakers Mason Chalk from KAUA'I Leadership Development and Chris Molina from the Liokulani Trust. This event covers the important roles that fathers play in our families and community, and it promises to be a day full of encouragement, skill building, and of course, fun. Space is limited and registration is required. To get info, call 808-821-2520 or email KACIERTO@cfs-hawaii.org. All right, Kauaʻi, it's news flash time. We're going to give you the latest in a quick and easy to swallow format that won't bore you to death. Let's start with the nurses' strike update. The Hō'ike Weekly's been keeping tabs on what's happening in regards to the nurses' strike at Wilcox for a while now. We first reported on it back in October, then again a couple weeks ago during a 3-day strike. And now today we have some guests in the studio to give us an update on negotiations between the hospital administration and the nurses union. Check it out. Aloha Kauaʻi, I'm Tricia Allen. Joining me in the studio, we have Natalie and Jesse, both nurses at Wilcox in Lihue, going through some contract negotiations, and they're here to give us a quick update. There was some action at County Council yesterday. Would you ladies tell us really quickly what that was about?
Well, currently we are doing contract negotiations, and our main concern is safety and nurse to patient ratio. So how many patients a nurse has. On the mainland and on Oahu, they're going for 1 nurse to 4 patients, 1 nurse to 5 patients max. Here we're at 1 to 6. And when they cover breaks, they end up having to take on another nurse load, which is 1 to 12. Which is really scary because that shouldn't be happening. And we just really don't think that that should be happening, and we're trying to fix that.
So you're working on trying to get smaller ratios, nurse to patient ratios, so that you can perform your job more safely. Is that correct?
Yes, and that will allow us to have more time with each patient. So like if you think 1 nurse taking care of 6 patients, when you break that down in an hour, if you were to try and see all 6 of your patients every hour, which is what HPH requests, we do like hourly rounding, you get 10 minutes for each patient to see in the hour. And you have to then do your assessments, administer medications, check vital signs, address changes in condition, anything like that. So right now where the nurses are carrying 6 patients, what we're asking for is 5. And that just gives an additional 2 to 3 minutes per patient. Like it's not that much, but in that amount of time, that gives you the chance to, oh, maybe my patient's vital signs have changed and now I can address this. Or, oh, maybe my patient needs pain medication. Maybe they soiled themselves and they need to be changed or assisted up to the bathroom. And if you didn't have those additional couple minutes to see that patient, you could miss that, and that patient is going to be suffering.
Oh, I see. So this isn't so much about pay as it is about the ratios. That seems to be the main focus, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's been a ton of studies showing that each additional patient that a nurse receives increases mortality and death by 16%. And if you keep it at a safe level, then you're preventing people from dying in the end, because you're getting to the treatments quicker, you're noticing changes quicker. And, you know, if we could prove that we could prevent all these deaths, I feel like things would change a lot quicker. And that's why we're trying to speak out, because we've been speaking out for years and years and nothing has changed. So we're really hoping that the community can put pressure on the hospital to create a better hospital setting for Kauai.
And the hospital is going to keep saying, they're like, well, look at our patient satisfaction scores are really high, and there's all these quality metrics that they'll point to that show that, we're not having in-hospital infections and things like that. And that's because our nurses are busting our butts. Like, we're working hard, we're missing breaks, we're not taking lunches, because we're taking care of these patients so well at the expense of our health and sanity. And then we're losing nurses too. No one is staying to work.
Which honestly is my next question about staffing. In order to cover these ratios, you would have to have more nurses on staff at that specific time. Is that an issue that you ladies see at the hospitals when you're working, that there's not enough staff to cover the ratio?
Well, what's happening a lot of the times is we have the staff to meet these ratios, but they're getting sent home and they're overworking the staff that's staying. So a lot of nurses aren't getting their hours. They're getting sent home and not getting paid their full wages. And then the nurses that stay end up taking on these crazy loads. So a lot of the time they already have the staff and they're just not utilizing them.
I see. And when we spoke earlier, you talked about the difference between, say, an ER nurse and then a charge nurse. Can you explain that really quickly?
So on the floor, on the med-surg floor, there's the regular staff nurses that carry up to 6 patients. And then there's a designated charge nurse who also carries up to 6 patients. And so she or he has their 6 patients that they're responsible for. And then they also have a whole laundry list of other responsibilities to the floor. They need to make sure everyone's getting their breaks. They need to be checking on sometimes staffing for the next day. They're putting out maybe fires, not literal fires, but they're putting out
literal fires. Actually,
they're dealing with maybe like patient or family complaints or like staffing issues, things like that. They just have other stuff. And then what the current proposal from Wilcox right now is also saying, they want to add additional responsibilities to that charge nurse. They want to have them reassessing the acuity of every patient on the floor 4 times a shift, 3 times.
In addition to having their
own patients and all the other responsibilities of the floor. They want to add more responsibilities to the charge nurse.
I see.
And so that's crazy.
On the mainland, the charge nurse doesn't have patients, so they can focus on organizing and transferring patients and staffing for the next day, and then also breaking nurses so that people actually get a lunch in their 12-hour shift.
Okay. Lunch is good.
Yeah, food is good.
Yesterday, the county council heard a resolution that was presented by Fern Holland and was it Bernard Carvalho. And so what's the next step from this point? What is your next step?
Ideally, this is such a small, it's just the county council resolution. Like we said, it's not mandating Wilcox to do anything. It's not legislating anything. It's just kind of like an official opinion piece, I guess. But it could be the steps towards state legislation. And that was floated at the beginning of the legislative session in January, I think. And it was deferred.
Oh, I see.
There was legislation in process for mandated safe staffing ratios for the whole state.
Yeah, unfortunately, Greg and Jackson deferred the bill so that nobody could vote on it.
Yeah, then they said their argument was that they weren't experts. They couldn't speak to hospital staffing ratios, so they deferred the bill, but then that shut down the committees that they had tasked with learning all about how staffing ratios work. That blocked them from even submitting any of their testimony.
I see. So if people care about this situation and want to be kept up to date, they should definitely pay attention to state legislation because it may come through there again. But also that information can be found on, is there an Instagram page or a website?
Yeah, the Hawaii Nurses Association Instagram page. So it's HNA, the HNA Instagram page.
Okay. And we'll put that right here on the screen for you so that if you would like to find out information, you can go there and get it. What's one thing you would like the public to know about this whole situation?
That we just want the best for our community. I mean, the nurses have put their livelihoods on the line to get the message out that things should be the same as the mainland and Oahu. Just because we're a community hospital doesn't mean we get lesser ratios or worse care. Like, we deserve the same care.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is that Oahu has better ratios in their HPH hospitals, and Wilcox is a part of HPH. And Wilcox refuses to meet those same ratios for our patients here, and we don't feel that that's safe or fair.
I watched the county council meeting yesterday, and I heard something about having it, because Kauai is more of a rural patient situation versus, I don't know, I guess
Like a trauma one
City,
or something.
yeah.
trauma or something.
I mean-
how does that play a part? in
So that's the
staffing?
thing that really makes me mad, because on the mainland, California, for example, hundreds of thousands of hospitals. Doesn't matter if it's a community hospital, if it's a city hospital, level 1, level 2, there's all different kinds of hospitals in California. They all follow the same rules. It doesn't matter what kind of hospital you are. You could be in the middle of nowhere. Those rules apply to everyone. All people are created equal. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So it's rural versus like city.
Yeah. So it's just comparing Wilcox to Straub. So
Queens.
Straub is in the middle of a city. There are other hospitals around it. So like Straub, for example, they don't take trauma patients because all the trauma patients go to Queens. They don't take pediatric patients because all the pediatric patients go to Kapi'olani.
Okay.
But for us, we're a rural hospital. So we take all of those things because we don't have anywhere else for them to go.
I see.
Potentially we transfer them, but those transfers can be delayed. Those transfers can take a long time. And so in the interim, we are still caring for them.
Okay.
And in the end, California has very similar hospitals to ours where, they have to take all of the different types of patients and they get the same ratios as everybody else because they have their own unique struggle. And sometimes it's harder to be in a hospital like that because you don't have specialties that are focused on pediatrics and, infants and stuff like that. So it can be harder, and it doesn't make sense that that's one of the excuses that they're using. Oh, you guys aren't as sick. People are sick and they deserve the same amount of care as everybody else.
Yeah, and because we are rural, we don't have the same resources.
Which makes things harder.
Yeah, we don't have, like, a larger hospital is going to have an IV team that's going to come and start all the IVs. They're going to have a discharge nurse that's going to do all the discharges. They're going to have a pediatric unit. They're going to have a trauma unit. We have medical surgical floor.
We do it all.
And all the patients,
that is in one
all the
spot in
patients
our
go
hospital.
there, and the nurses that are working there do all of those things that are usually delineated out to other resource teams.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming in and giving us a quick update. Again, we'll put this Instagram page where people can go to get information about your situation. And I can't thank you enough for coming in and letting us know about it.
Thank you.
Thanks. The YWCA has launched their newest program for Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander communities this past week. It's called Ho'omana I Ka and it'll have multiple locations, one on the North Shore in Anahola and the other on the west side in Keikaha. We were able to meet up with the program's director, Kavena Pagano, just before she held the Ho'omana I Ka open house in Anahola. Take a look. Aloha Kauaʻi, I'm Tricia Allen, and I am here with Kavena Pagano. She is the director for Ho'omana I Ka Lahui. We're at the Anahola location, but there are going to be other locations, right?
Correct.
Okay, where are the other locations?
So our second location is actually located in Waimea to service the population there along with Kekaha.
Okay, and this program is run through the YWCA. It's specifically for Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander communities. Tell us a little bit about this program and what it does for those communities.
So this specific grant under the Department of Human Services was really tailored for rural communities like Anahola and Kekaha And the services that we provide include prevention services. So we do a curriculum that specifically helps students to learn life skills to empower them on healthy relationships and setting boundaries. And so we provide prevention, and mainly for the Hawaiian immersion communities, Hawaiian-focused charter schools. So I'm here at Anahola at Kanikapono Charter School. I'll also be servicing Haumana, our students at Kawaikini, along with Kanaka School on the west side. Other services, we have crisis intervention services, advocacy, telehealth, case management as needed. We'll be hosting events also because we are culturally resident services. We do want to host events that help to promote more healing and really to help perpetuate and revitalize the Hawaiian culture. So,
and looking at all of this information on this pamphlet, and there's a lot of it that obviously people who are watching can't see. Where can we send them? What website or online resource is there for folks if they wanted to get more information about this program or how to connect with the YWCA?
Great question. So right now we do have a website, YWCAKauaʻi.org, but we will have office hours as well, Wednesday, Fridays here in Anahola from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. We are still determining the hours for Kekaha. We haven't opened yet, and also by email. So my email, kavena@ywcakauaʻi.org.
And you're having an open house for Kekaha. I'm not sure if we talked about that. What is the date for that open house?
That will be March 4th. It's a Tuesday evening. The grand opening will be 5:30 to 6:30, but same open house from 1 to 4.
Okay. And people can come and get information about the program and see how it can benefit them. Thank you, Kavena, for this. It's a lot of work, and we appreciate everything that you do. So thank you.
Mahalo.
Speaking of health, a new app is connecting the community and helping to save lives. It's called Pulse Point, and it empowers everyday citizens to provide life-saving assistance to victims of sudden cardiac arrest. App users who've indicated that they're trained in CPR and willing to assist in case of an emergency can be notified if someone nearby is in cardiac arrest. The app also directs these rescuers to the exact location of nearby defibrillators. If you're not certified in CPR and can't help, don't worry. You can still check the app to see what emergency calls that KFD and first responders are working on, which is kind of how I use it. Pulse Point is available on both Apple and Android devices. Every year in the state of Hawaii, the American School Counselor Association names a School Counselor of the Year who devotes their career to advocating for the nation's students and addresses their academic and social-emotional development, as well as their college and career readiness needs. Well, this year's School Counselor of the Year happens to be from Chiefess Kamakahele Middle School, and her name is Noelani Butcher. We had the honor of interviewing her in the studio this week. Let's take a look at what Hawaii's 2025 School Counselor of the Year had to say. Aloha Kauaʻi, I'm Tricia Allen, sitting next to the Hawaii State School Counselor of the Year, Mrs. Noelani Butcher. How are you today?
Good, I'm wonderful.
Well, you're a wonderful counselor according to the state of Hawaii, and we are very lucky to have you. We're going to ask you all kinds of questions today because we want to know what drives you and how you got to be in this amazing position and how lucky we are to have you on island. So let's just start with that. How long have you been a school counselor?
I've been a school counselor for 14 years.
Okay, and then in education for how long?
This is my 24th year in education.
Wow. Okay, so before you were a school counselor, what did you do?
I was a teacher, a special education teacher for 11 years. I taught students different grade levels, primarily elementary school. I taught all the different subjects, and it was very challenging, but I found that I liked the behavioral part, the why, and not so much the math. I never assigned homework as a teacher.
Okay. Which is, I'm sure the students love that, right? So what about the special education part kind of drew you?
I think behavior. I think that children that question why are we doing the math, they have more personality, I feel like, you know? So I just enjoyed the different diversity of those students.
So from special education teacher to counselor, what did that switch over look like?
You know, I just realized that so much of my teaching, my lesson plans always had to stop whenever there was a behavior or there was a mental moment. It was like there was no teaching going on if you're not ready to learn. And
that makes sense.
Yeah. So I just found myself liking that a little bit more than doing the math and the spelling and the science, although I love that. And that's really important. And teachers do amazing work. But working with the kids on their social well-being and their emotional well-being kind of hooked me.
I'm assuming you have to come up with certain programs and, fun stuff to kind of teach these things in a way that people can receive them. What kind of programs have you employed to
So guidance lessons where you go into the classroom and you teach students different skills. That's primarily in elementary school. In middle school, we try to show videos and we have social emotional curriculum that they get kind of an advisory. So we try to give it back to the teachers to kind of embed it, incorporate it in all subjects because it's, social emotional wellness is so important. It's all day long, right?
Yeah.
For me, I like to say I'm the sprinkles on the ice cream. I like the fun stuff.
I like that analogy.
I like the fun stuff, and I'm not going to lie. So some programs that I value and I find very important is the game room. I think that not all students like to run and play at recess, although they should. I do believe they should run and play and socialize. But kids in different grades, some of them like to socialize in different ways. And so I started the game room at our middle school, and we have board games, card games. We do have some electronic games, which they like. But they're socializing during all that. And so, kids can choose to come in and do different things, and we run tournaments and we try to make it fun. But I just like to give them a different place to go, more selection, because no two kids are the same. Yeah. And they don't want the same thing every day.
Yeah. What's one of the most memorable experiences that you've had as a counselor?
Oh,
there's probably so many.
Well, I have to say, I'll tell you one. I was in elementary school and I'm teaching this beautiful lesson on controlling our emotions, emotional management. We're watching a video, we read a story, and a student just gets up in the back of the room and does cartwheel. And so as the adult in the room, nobody saw. So I'm like, do I keep teaching or do I say something about the cartwheel? And I still remember who that student is. He's graduated now, but I kept teaching. It was a beautiful lesson. Nobody knew, but after the lesson was over and the class was over, I did talk to that student about doing a cartwheel in class.
What do you say?
Just had this energy and wanted to get it out.
I know. You know what, though? Sometimes you just got to do a cartwheel. School Counselor of the Year. Did you know you were up for this? Were you nominated? How does it work?
I was nominated by my vice principal, Tahara Stein, and she told me that she nominated me after the fact, and I was just honored to be nominated. I didn't think anything of it, and so I'm just in awe that because there's so many good teachers and counselors everywhere, and I feel like everybody needs to be recognized in an award. So it's very nice to receive this award. I feel like everybody should be celebrated, but I was very surprised. I'm very fortunate to say that I love my job. I don't love all the paperwork maybe or some of the non-essential stuff, but I like the kid part of my job.
It's a necessary evil,
yes.
Paperwork and stuff.
It is. So whenever I can go to the game room,
you like it just as much as the kids.
I do actually. Yeah, I say, I tell my principal, I was like, you want to keep me happy and keep me here? Let me have my game room so I can go play.
You didn't make the game room for the kids. You made it for yourself.
Yes, that is true.
Secrets out. Everybody knows now.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking the time and talking with us about it, and congratulations.
Thank you
on your award. It's well deserved.
Thank you.
We're very happy for you.
I appreciate it.
Of course. All right, Kauaʻi. An award-winning school counselor is a pretty tough act to follow, and luckily I won't have to, because that's all the Hō'ike we have for you this week. I'm Tricia Allen, wishing you love and aloha. Don't forget Valentine's Day or your Valentine. Hō'ike Kauaʻi Community Media's president and CEO is Allegra Gaines. Administrative assistant, Leiko Someda. Production and education services by Roger Olson. Production and IT services by Max Richardson. News and events producer, Tricia Allen. County producer and social media manager, Olivia Franco.